Hey, welcome to the channel. If you happen to go look at the actual channel, you'll notice that this is the only video that's on there. It's a brand new channel, Re-Ray Every Day, and this is kind of a spin-off channel to my main channel, which is Re-Ray Outdoors, where I focus mostly on solar power, portable power stations, camping type stuff, the occasional e-bike. And this channel is going to be meant for everything else. So I'll be doing a lot of DIY stuff around the country property here, and I'll be doing some EV stuff as well. And this is my wife's 2023 Mustang Mach-E, and we are going to go on our first road trip with this thing. It only has just a hair over 4,000 miles on it. I've got it fully topped off here. We're at 100%, which is something I normally don't do, to charge it all the way to 100, because normally we're just driving it around town and we got plenty of charge just on like maybe 60 or 70%. But it's gonna be very interesting. This is gonna be a road trip from Southern Ohio all the way down to a little bit north of Atlanta, Georgia. So this is going to be with side stops and a little sightseeing, about 500 miles each way. And so we're gonna find out what this is really like, because there's a lot of area down there once you get off the main highway where there are not a lot of charger options in terms of DC fast charging, which is what you want when you're traveling. Now, as you may or may not be aware, Ford is the first auto manufacturer to join the Tesla supercharger compatibility. So I am going to be able to have access thanks to this adapter right here. And I bought this from, not sponsored by the way, I bought this from a company called Electron. And I basically bought it even though Ford is going to give us one, because we're not going to get the one from Ford probably for another month or two. So I went ahead and bought this just to give us more options. So instead of the usual Electrify America, Charge Point, you know, those kinds of typical charging networks, we're also going to have access to many, not all, but many of the Tesla supercharger destinations as well, thanks to this guy here. So, and I did just get the update on this Mach-E just like a day or two ago that told me that it enabled plug-in charge, which basically means you literally just plug this in with the cable, plug it into your supercharger, and it automatically starts charging like it would on a Tesla. But prior to now, when we have tested this before, we had to go into the app and kind of fiddle around, find the specific charger number, activate it from the app, and then finally things would start working. This will hopefully make it a lot easier. So we're gonna find out how all this goes. We're gonna do a cool train ride in a couple of days up in the mountains off of Bryson City, North Carolina. But this is mostly gonna be about what is it like to road trip in a Ford Mustang Mach-E. And again, this is a 2023 model. This is the rear-wheel drive extended range. So if that gives you any indication. Let's take a quick look at the dash and see what kind of charge, what kind of range they're estimating right now. All right, you can see here on the dash, got 100% state of charge. Now it's estimating 352 miles, and that is pretty, I would say, pretty optimistic. That says we're gonna be mostly highway miles. That is probably gonna be more like 310 miles or something like that. So we're going to find out. But you can see this car is really not that old. It's only about 2.5 months old. We've got 4,100 miles on it. Now, just to show you kind of how the route planning works in a Ford Mach-E, they did recently remove the route planning feature from the mobile app for some reason, and I don't know if it's coming back or not. But there is a better route planner app that I have downloaded on my phone that I probably will reference. And then there's also the Ford navigation right here in the car. And I have saved my destination here. We're going to Ball Ground, Georgia. You can see the destination is around 458 miles. And like I said, we're going to be making a couple of side trips on there to do some day hiking, maybe hit a couple of waterfalls or something like that tomorrow, if the weather permits and cooperates. But this does show a couple of charging stations here in the route along the way before we get to our final destination. And we can kind of configure this, but the first one will get us down to about 14% if we do follow this, and we may not, but it'll get us down to about 14% state of charge, and then we'll recharge for about 30 minutes until we get to the next destination, which will be down just north of the Georgia border. So yeah, we're gonna take you along. We're gonna find out if this is going to be a stressful adventure or a relatively stress-free adventure, or maybe somewhere in between. Here it says 89 miles to our next charge station, and 211 miles left total range. And then we got a state of charge right now at 65%. I think we are actually going to stop. I think there's a Buc-ee's coming up here, and we're just going to take a quick bathroom break. And I think maybe we'll just go ahead and charge there just for the time that we're going for the bathroom break and see, you know, how much charge we could add. Now, because we're only going to be about 65% state of charge, maybe 62 or 3 by the time we get there, it's not going to be charging at maximum speed. That only happens when you have a much lower state of charge. So we'll be accumulating state of charge at a lower rate, but that's fine. I kind of just want to see what happens. And we're going to play it pretty carefully on this trip, at least the first half, so we get a feel for what kinds of charging experiences we're in for. All right, we have arrived at our first Buc-ee's. It looks like Mercedes-Benz fast charging. So we are at 61%. We're just going to take a quick bathroom break and see how we do. All right, so I tapped my credit card and plugged it in, and it looks like we are ramping up. Wow, okay, we are getting 120 plus kilowatts. That's pretty impressive. All right, this Buc-ee's experience was off the chain. It's like an amusement park atmosphere in there. A little overstimulating, if you know what I mean. So I was happy to get out of there. Kind of a cool niche though. I just wouldn't want to spend any time inside. But I think these chargers are working out pretty well. Let me flip you around here. We've only been gone for a short while. I'm sure we'll be able to see here. Yeah, we're already at 86%. And we've been on the charger for 20 minutes. $13. So I think we can go ahead and stop. Go ahead and tell it to stop there. Plug that back in there. All right, done. So we added almost 24 kilowatts, 13 bucks, 21 minutes. Not too bad. Let's get back on the road. Fire it up and see what we got. All right, we are at 86%. Back to almost 300 miles of range. We're in great shape. And frankly, we didn't spend any more time in here than we would have if we were just filling up with gas. And we got snacks. All right, we took a quick side trip here. We're just outside of Knoxville. And we're at Ozone Falls area. The wife, Nakia, has got a little bit of range anxiety going on right now because we were below 100 miles of range. And we're pretty far from a charger. But I feel pretty confident. We're about call it 20 miles from a Buc-ee's, so there's that option. If it's in the wrong direction though, and I think we're probably only about 40 miles or so from the Knoxville area, where there'll be plenty of charging options. So I'm not really super concerned about the fact that we only have about 82 miles of range right now. So should be fine. Cutting a little closer than we normally would, but I guess we got to get used to this, right? So
Buc-ee.
Buc-ee. All right. Hopefully there's a good shot of the falls. All right, we found the top of the falls. Apparently this is like one of the taller falls, maybe the third tallest falls. Pretty cool. I got to figure out how to get down there so I can get a long exposure waterfall picture. That's kind of the whole point. All right, I think I've got a good vantage point. Taking a long exposure. I didn't bring the wide angle lens, but I think I can just get it in. And there it is. Frame that a little more center. There we go. Yeah, the whole trail getting down here is actually pretty cool too. It's only about a quarter of a mile from the little parking area. Not too shabby. So we actually made it to our fast charger, about 40 miles to spare, so we're in good shape. This is a 350 kilowatt charger, and dun dun dun. All right, cable timed out. All right, charger number 2. We are checking cable safety. This is a GM Energy charger, kind of interesting. So we'll see if this one works. Matching voltage, that's a good sign. All right. You see we're at 18% state of charge. We should get pretty close to 120 kilowatts, maybe a little bit more than that. I think this 2023 Mach-E will do up to 150 kilowatts, but that's only at a very low state of charge. Yeah, so we got 128, 135. This is excellent. 138 kilowatts. That's great. Okay, we're gonna go and yeah, we are going to go get a bathroom break, grab something to eat, and we'll be back and see how we did. All right, this was a bust. We did get about 100 miles of charge, and two separate chargers charged us for 5 or 10 minutes, and then they stopped, and I could not get them working again. As you can see behind me, none of them are in use. These are GM Ultium chargers, and they are flaky. This is a Flying J on the southwest side of Knoxville, just off of I-40, and yeah, I don't recommend these chargers. Thankfully, we have enough charge now to get down near Chattanooga, and we'll have much better luck down there, no doubt. So try again down there. All right, so the good news is at the last stop, even though we wasted a lot more time there than we really needed to, since we only got about an extra 100 miles, it got us enough charge to get further south, actually just a mile from our hotel. And we're at a Walmart superstore here at an Electrify America charge, and I used the Electrify America app, no problem. Fired right up, getting 140 kilowatts. So, much better experience here. And we can go into Walmart if we want, for what that's worth. We're just like 10 miles from the hotel. We're still at the Walmart, and the first charger started out great, and then it suddenly tapered off, and we're only doing 34 kilowatts, even though we were well below 50%. And so I moved it over to one of the 350 kilowatt chargers, and like I said, this car only charges at 150 kilowatts anyway. This one was charging at full speed. In fact, we were getting 152 kilowatts at one point. Right now we're getting 111 kilowatts, and we are making very good, quick progress. So I think we're only going to be here for another 10 minutes, and then we'll be topped off enough, about 75% state of charge or so, to head to the hotel. But this is the state of charging infrastructure in this country right now. So you got to be a little patient with it. You got to do a little trial and error, but as long as you do a little bit of planning ahead of time, it's still workable. But it's definitely not flawless from a user experience standpoint. So as long as you do that going in, I think you'll be all right. All right, we are up just about halfway through this road trip. We stayed overnight last night here in Chattanooga. We've only got about an hour and a half or so to our final destination, which is a wedding. And then we're gonna, actually today we have just enough time. I think we're gonna try to do a pretty cool cave tour with an underground waterfall, which might be cool. But lessons learned on charging. So far, we have not used the Tesla network at all. We have only used the CCS1 type charging. And I would say we've had a pretty disappointing 50% success rate so far, with 3 potential issues. So the first stop was flawless. That Buc-ee's with the Mercedes-Benz 400 kilowatt charger, no problem. That worked great. The second stop, we actually had a problem. That was at the EVgo, where the first charger just would error out and wouldn't connect. We went to an adjacent charger, just one slot over. There were only 4 chargers there total, and there was a general problem with that area. That charger would start and it would run for a few minutes, and then it would just shut down on you. And the problem with that is it gave me a false sense of functionality. So we went in and sat down and had a dinner there at that Flying J's. I think that was a Denny's restaurant. So we went ahead and sat down and had dinner. We figured we're gonna eat dinner anyway. This would be a great opportunity. While we're eating, I had it stop on me twice, and I couldn't get it restarted the third time, and I just gave up. And it was also expensive. It was gonna be like 60 cents a watt hour. So that was one, where it doesn't work. 2, where it works for a little while and then shuts down. The third issue we ran into is later at night on the way down here, we stopped at a Walmart, which was an Electrify America. We went to a 150 kilowatt charger. There was plenty of chargers there. Late at night, it was raining, as you saw. That one started out great, but it throttled us down. Within 5 minutes, we were only charging at 34 kilowatts, which is not great. That will not get you what you want in the amount of time that you'd want it to give you a good charge. And so what I did was I unplugged from that one, and we just went down to the other end of the charging slots, and that one turned out to be a 350 kilowatt, which really shouldn't have made any difference since this car maxes out at 150 kilowatts. But that one gave us the full, you know, 100 plus. In fact, at one point we were getting 152 kilowatts, which was really great. And as you would expect with the normal charge curve, by the time we got close to 80% of state of charge, we were pulling about 84 kilowatts, which was about right. So we got plenty of charge in that in a fairly short period of time. If we'd have just gone to that one first, it would have been a non-issue. But once again, we were left with a false sense of functionality, where we got it going, everything was fine. We went into the store, I checked the app and realized, oh, it dropped us down. So I had to go back out, and it was raining, which wasn't pleasant. And that's another thing. I noticed that only so far, maybe 20% of the chargers we've been to or less actually are covered. So if it's raining, you got to go out in the rain and do this in the rain, which it's not dangerous, it's just annoying. So take that into consideration. Thankfully, we don't go on road trips all the time, but if I was having to drive this EV long distances every week, I might get annoyed by that, to be perfectly honest. So anyway, today I think we're going to actually find a supercharger from the Tesla network, and we're just going to see what kind of luck we have with that. We're going to maybe do a couple of those, maybe 2 or 3 or maybe 4, I don't know, through the remainder of the trip, and we're just going to find out if those work out any more reliably. From what I've seen, the Tesla supercharger network does have a much higher success rate, so I'm sure we'll have better luck than that today. And it hasn't been a showstopper. I would still road trip in this car, no question. It's just not quite as convenient as gas. You really have to change your way of thinking. So let's see if I still feel that way at the end of this trip, and let's get back on the road and see how the rest of it goes. Okay, we made it to a Tesla supercharger, and let me just show you here. We're using this Electron adapter, and Ford and Rivian are the only ones other than Tesla that can use Tesla superchargers right now. And we are at, normally would not charge right now because we are at like 72%, and that's typically not how you would go about doing this. The other downside, actually, let me finish that thought. The reason we're charging right now, we're actually going to try to top this thing off, which again is something we normally wouldn't do on the road, but we are we have plenty of time right now, whereas when we go on this cave tour, we're going to have very little time to get back on the road to our final destination, and there's not really any charges where we're going, so we need to make sure we have pretty much a full charge, just to make sure we have plenty of comfort zone buffer. Now, that said, one of the things about when you're not a Tesla vehicle, Tesla chargers are all located in the back corner, whereas you can see this is in the front quarter panel. And so we are basically taking this charger, which is designed for this space here, and we've effectively blocked that space over there. And so we're necessarily having to take 2 spots, which is not ideal, but there's really not any other way to do it because the cables on these Tesla superchargers are so short. So just be aware of that. Try to be careful that you're not charging in an area that's really crowded if you're driving a Mach-E, because you will end up taking up 2 spaces, and if there are people waiting, they're probably not going to be too happy about that. So this is kind of like a last resort sort of situation, but in this case there was not a lot of utilization on these chargers right now, so really not a big deal. Anyway, just want to let you know that it's possible in a Mach-E to charge at a Tesla supercharger. And by the way, that firmware upgrade did work. I was able to plug and it began charging. I didn't have to go into the app and activate anything. It all just worked nicely. All right, so we'll see you at the next stop. All right, so we have hit 80%, and this is why you normally don't charge on DC fast chargers past 80%, because especially all cars are going to be a little bit different. The Ford Mach-E does have a pretty aggressive charge curve once you get over 80%. You can see we've dropped from, I think we were, what were we at, something like 90 some kilowatts down to 71, and now we hit 80 and it's dropped to 39 kilowatts. And that's designed purposefully to reduce the stress on the battery cells as the resistance increases when the state of charge increases. So it's designed to maximize your overall long-term service life of the battery cells, but it does slow down. So it's going to take us longer to get from 80% to 100%. than it would to get from, say, 30% to 80%. Pretty significantly longer. So this is saying we'll get to 100% by 12:07, which would be about just a little under an hour from now. So I'm not sure if we're going to stay the entire time, but we are going to let this top off a little bit further since we do have the time right now. But I kind of wanted to point that out if you didn't understand kind of how the charge curve works. Your maximum charge rate actually occurs when you're at your lowest state of charge. And by the way, take a look over there. There's a guy in a Toyota Tacoma pickup truck taking a charge space. Now, it's obviously not a huge deal because there are plenty of charger spaces available. But yeah, clearly that guy has been dropped on his head when he was a child. I'm not sure what he's hoping to accomplish by that. Anyway, don't be one of those people. All right, we're at 90%. Really don't need more than that. I'm not sure we really needed this. This was mostly for to help resolve Nakia's range anxiety, but I don't think we really needed to do this. Anyway, let's see how we stop charging. So since we're DC fast charging, press the stop button. That allows the unit to release, tells the charger to stop charging. Now we can remove the Tesla plug. Oh, actually there's a release underneath, and that is a two-handed job. So we can do that with the camera here. You got to pull the release underneath, and then it comes out. Oh, yeah, that was hard to do with one hand. But I do like this Electron because it actually is a little bit easier. On the bottom there, you can see there's the release that shows up. It's a little bit easier than the one that Ford will be sending us. So I'm not sure we'll be using the Ford one much. Really kind of depends, but yeah, they both will work fine, I'm sure. I just happen to like this release design a little better because it's easier than the one that I've seen on the Ford. All right, off to the next stop, which should be pretty cool. All right, as you can see behind me, we are at another Flying J, the GM Energy EV Go. So maybe against my better judgment, but we're going to give these guys another chance to see if they can redeem themselves and find out if this will actually work like it should, unlike the one outside of Knoxville. So we're going to find out if it's EV Go or EV Go yourself. Let's find out which one it is. All right, go ahead and open the door. Tap to start. Let's see, we are on B, so it's this guy here. You go ahead and plug it in. All right, credit card scanned. Payment is authorized. This is where we would get a timeout on the other one. And then it would work for a little while and then stop. Matching voltage, okay, all right. There we go. We're counting up. Now again, normally I would not be charging right now, but we are going to be not having an opportunity to charge after a little wedding event tonight, and we're going to be heading into the mountains with nowhere to charge for 150 miles or so. So I want to make sure we have a really good buffer. So we're going to go ahead and charge this as much as possible since we have about an hour and a half right now. Let's see if we can top this thing off. So we're currently getting 72 kilowatts. Fingers crossed that this is going to let us continue and not act up like the other one did. So far so good. We will see. All right, I guess second time is the charm here for this EV Go system at Flying J. This one is just maybe 30 miles south of the Georgia border. Yeah, Georgia-Tennessee border. So this one working great. And I don't think we have quite enough time on our hands to fully top this off to 100% because that charge rate just nosedives here at the end. So we're just going to take what we can get and we're going to head out. All right, we made it to Bryson City, North Carolina last night, and we're going to take a Smoky Mountain Railroad train ride this morning. And we were able to get here no problem, even though there really aren't any charge options between here and where we came from. But they do have a couple of chargers here. They're not great in Bryson City. Here's what I ended up doing. I parked the car. In fact, I picked the Stonebrook Lodge across the street just for this reason, because there are only these couple of chargers in here. In fact, there's little 4 of them. This one is faulted out. I don't know if you can see that. It's got a little error message on it. These things only charge at 8 kilowatts. So basically, We started at about, let's see, 24% charge. And then I just plugged it in and it charged overnight. So at 7 a.m. we basically have 100% charge. I think we're maybe at 99% actually, looking at the app. But yeah, this didn't actually cost me anything. This was free, which is nice. So no no charge to charge, pun intended. All right, so let me unplug this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and move the car back over to the hotel across the street, and then we're gonna go do a train ride. So that should be fun. All right, so we had a decision to make here. We were fully topped off in Bryson City, and we haven't done any charging yet. We're on the last 300 miles stretch or so to get home, maybe 250 miles. And we've got basically 2 chargers en route that would be quite suitable, that are DC fast chargers. And one of them is only about 30 miles away, and we are still currently sitting at 43% stated charge with 114 miles of range. If we were to go to the next one, which would be that first Buc-ee's that you saw there earlier in the video, that would get us, we should have enough range, but that would only give us about a 12-mile buffer. And that's assuming that that range estimate was accurate. And a lot of times it's not. It can be off by as much as 10%, depending on speed conditions and, you know, that sort of thing. So it was a little bit of a gamble to go the extra 2 hours all the way to that Buc-ee's, because of that only 12-mile sort of 10% buffer. So we've opted to go to the closer one, which I said is only about 30 miles away, 28 miles away now. And it's an EVgo, a 350 kilowatt charger. It's not at a Flying J. I think it's at like a Pilot Travel Center or something like that. But, you know, you've seen in the previous clips, we've had some issues with these EVgos. The last one seemed to work fine. So we'll see if we have third time's the charm on this one, and see if we can improve that from 50% success on these EVgo chargers to maybe 66% success. So stay tuned, we'll find out. All right, I called an audible. When we got to the exit, I actually found out that in addition to those EVgo chargers at the Pilot, this is Williamsburg, Kentucky, on the southern border of Kentucky. There's also a Walmart superstore here that has Electrify America, and we've had a little better luck with Electrify America. So we're gonna see if that works. These should be plug and charge, work right through the Ford Pass app. So we're gonna give that a try and make sure that that is actually working. So let's give it a shot. It's negotiating, processing. All right, okay. The other nice thing is that we still have some credits from the Ford Mach-E purchase on the Electrify America network. So initiating charging. All right, we're gonna let this go. Go take a bathroom break, see how we do. Picked up a few things at Walmart. We walked across the street. We saw a place called the Bourbon Barn, which was pretty cool. Spent about, well, way too much money there. But yeah, so we've been charging for 37 minutes and we're at 89%. So we have more than enough range to get home. So we'll go ahead and stop charging and get out of here. Notice charging cost was 0 because we've got those credits from Ford. So that's cool. All right, that's a wrap. So it's taken me a lot longer than I anticipated to get my new channel, Re-Ray Every Day, up and running, and then sit down to finalize my comments on this video. So 3 months actually have elapsed since that road trip. But how would I characterize this road trip experience? Well, you know, as you saw, it was definitely not without a few challenges and maybe a little bit of stress. And I'd have to admit that the fairly vocal online criticism that the CCS charging network reliability is just not where it needs to be is certainly justified. Not being able to have complete confidence that your chosen fast charging location is going to actually have fully functional and available chargers for you when you get there means that you're going to kind of be forced to build in a little more of a, you know, like a safety net state of charge, just in case you happen to need to go to a plan B location. And that does add some stress when you're on a long road trip. So EVgo in particular was not especially confidence inspiring, at least on our particular road trip. But the Mercedes-Benz chargers at the Buc-ee's travel plazas and even Electrify America chargers that we used did actually get the job done without much, if any, drama. Also, knowing that as a Ford owner, I now do have access to the Tesla supercharger network, that really does help alleviate a lot of that stress. And you know, you do need one of these Tesla to CCS adapters like this in order to take advantage of the supercharger network. I bought this particular one from a company called Electron, and I find it to be a much better design than the Tesla Ford adapter, which they've actually had to recently recall due to a design flaw. So if you happen to be in the market for an adapter like this, I can highly recommend this one from Electron. This is called their Vortex adapter. And per usual, I'll put an easy access link for you down in the description below if you are interested in going to go check that out. But all that said, I do think having access to the Tesla supercharger options now absolutely does make the difference between completely doable and maybe stressfully doable as far as long road trips are concerned. And by that I mean without that supercharger network option, taking a long road trip in a non-Tesla EV would, or at least could, make that experience a lot more stressful, but it really wouldn't stop me from taking the trip. Because on balance, I do think as long as you have the flexibility to build in an extra 10 or 15 minutes here and there along your route, long road trips are still very doable, just a little bit more planning is required. And do keep in mind that our particular trip did include a couple of 100 miles or so of remote back roads where we really had very slim pickings as far as charging options were concerned. So I'd expect that if we had stayed closer proximity to major thoroughfares and highways, things would have probably been a fair amount less stressful, with or without the Tesla supercharger access. And I should also mention that at the time we did this trip, it actually didn't help that Ford had just recently removed route planning from its Ford Pass mobile app. And that did force me to use a couple of other apps, one of which I relied on fairly heavily, called PlugShare, to enable me to have always an alternative charge location backed up just in case. But even in the couple of months that have elapsed since we took that trip, a lot of improvements have been made both on the Ford Pass app and also on apps in general, including some really nice EV route planning features that are now integrated into Google Maps, which has been an extremely welcome development. And of course, that's not perfect either, but it is a nice step in the right direction. So I do remain optimistic that the charging infrastructure will continue to improve across the country with new charging stations coming online every day, and hopefully significant improvements being made to the reliability of the existing charge stations. I can't say that I have any regrets about jumping into the EV experience, and to offer a little bit of proof that I truly believe what I'm saying here is that I've actually just bought a second EV, and this time I bought a used one, and I'll be sharing my experiences on that in future videos. Okay, I think that's a wrap. Thanks for joining me for this one. I do hope you'll consider joining me for the next one. Until then, have fun out there.